This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 441. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me is my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
You bet, man. 1-0, baby. And what a way to start the season with a hard-fought victory, one that required a large gut check and some heart that Mike Macdonald was asked to explain where that came from. I don't know, 17 different times in his presser, but we're not gonna ask him to explain that here in today's pod. I think we all just figured guys got great, and that's the end of that question.
Well, the Seahawks were resilient in coming back from their halftime deficit. They scored 17 points in the second half to get the 26-20 win. And I think that was what they were getting at. It was just impressive that they were able to make the comeback. I know as Seahawks fans, that's something that's very familiar to us, being down at halftime and then waiting for the comeback. Although I liked this version of it because we got ahead and up by multiple scores. You know, we let them get a little bit close, but then closed it out in the end. That felt good.
It did. I don't care how it comes about in a lot of ways, like just that it does. And look, at least they started their comeback at the start of the second half rather than just waiting till the fourth quarter. That's a bit refreshing. What was not refreshing was watching offensive line struggles throughout the first half that resembled, I don't know, the teams of the last 3-4 years. And that was, I think, probably the toughest part to swallow out the gate.
Well, it depends on what part of the offensive line you were watching. You know, if you're
anybody not named Charles Cross.
Connor Williams, I think he played well enough to where
his whiff caused the Geno Smith interception.
Well, that was 2 plays in. I mean, the dude didn't even have a preseason.
It still happened. I mean, he gave up a bad pressure that ended up turning into a bad interception. So, I mean, you can't just gloss over it. Like, it happened. Okay. Now, the offensive line as a whole got better in the second half, and I think the play calling helped with that a little bit as well. And it all started to come together, and that gives you some hope going into week 2 that they can get it cleaned up and there's room for improvement. But those first couple quarters, I mean, whether it was Williams or Bradford or Fant and Tomlinson on a couple occasions, it wasn't good across the board.
I'm not very excited about this offensive line. I was not excited about it coming into the season. They didn't show me anything to get me excited apart from Charles Cross. He got me super excited, and he got on the Pro Football Focus all PFF team for week 1.
Oh, that's impressive. I didn't realize he had made that. So good for Charles Cross. And look, the tape matches up with the award. In those first 2 quarters of offensive football, that was a sum of all of my fears of what this offense could be if it was really bad. And it all came to life just right out the gate. And that was a little alarming. But then as the game progresses, I think Mike Macdonald went into halftime and told Ryan Grubb, like, quit around. Like, we're gonna be more of a running team here in the second half, and it made a difference. Now, with that said, I didn't think that they had run the ball hardly at all in the first half. And going back on rewatch, they were running it earlier in drives more often than I thought they were out the gate. So it wasn't all just Grubb and, you know, having more of a spread approach and throwing the ball too much. It was just more a function of the guys just not being physically ready up front in week 1 with not a lot of, you know, padded practices and preseason and stuff.
You know, it's interesting too, is that when you look at the number of pressures they gave up, it was only 9 pressures on the day. And I guess that's even throwing Ken Walker in there too, but among the offensive linemen. So 8 pressures. And that, I guess
who was counting that?
According to PFF, which that seems low, doesn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely seems low. I definitely had mentioned in our post-game wrap-up that I'd watched a ton of football throughout the weekend, and that was easily the worst offensive line play I'd seen the entire time. But then was it the Sunday night game?
Oh, with the Rams, because their offensive line was completely destroyed?
Yes, and it looked exactly like the Seahawks offensive line, and it was definitely a struggle for the Rams overall because of that.
Yeah, we'll get into some of our NFC West rivals in the second half of the show, but I hope that this is in part a function of this group not having a ton of time together. You hope that some of the things that came together in the second half carries over from game 1 to game 2. And yeah, offensive line is going to continue to be a concern, I think, just because of the personnel that they have. I mean, I suppose you can improve because Christian Haynes is on the bench, and if the rookie has a chance to get in there and take over one of the guard spots, then maybe that ends up being an improvement. But I kind of think that you want to wait at least 4 or 5 games to give these guys an opportunity to gel together before you go and make any drastic changes.
I mean, or you could make drastic changes now and then give the guys that you have a little more hope in possibly to gel together and give them a little longer time for continuity. But I think it was Bill Simmons talking about it, in the teams that seemed to look the best throughout this week 1 were the teams that carried over a lot of continuity.
Sure.
A lot of the same personnel, not much changes in coaching, things like that. And whereas teams like our team here, where we've had a couple changes up front, all new coaching staff and everything, along with all the other teams that went through a bunch of change, struggled mightily out of the gate. And I do think that is a large function of nobody really plays in the preseason anymore. And most of the really physical practices have been legislated out of the offseason by the CBA.
As much as I want to blame or talk about the preseason, I want to talk about this regular season game, Adam, because it was great having regular football back. I know it started out slow, but that second half of football, and how about this defense? I think we could spend quite a bit of time talking about this defensive performance, because as much as I had my worries in other parts, I didn't have as many worries on the defense. And then I came away from this game not really having any worries about the defense.
Yeah, no major concerns should jump off the screen at you when you watch that game, when you think about it defensively. Even our biggest bugaboo positions are the ones we thought in our mind were going to be the big problems, whether that was linebacker or safety. Safeties play great. Julian Love has the pick. Jenkins was all over the field, making tackles early. I thought they played very, very well. I really liked what I saw out of Dotson sideline to sideline. I thought their speed horizontally to try to match a offense that the Broncos were running, which is more of a horizontal offense to try to take advantage of the easy things that Bo Nix does well. I thought they did really well at shutting that down. I think I only have about 10% concern that comes out of that game, only because there was a handful of throws that would have kept drives alive that Bo Nix just simply missed.
Mm-hmm.
And, first game, hostile environment, he's going to do that. And so that's nice. I don't think that when you get into the meat of the season, 6, 7, 8 weeks, your guys aren't going to be missing those. So, it's going to look a little different, but out the gate, I don't know how you can complain too much. Like, that was an all around good performance. They played up on dudes. They rallied to the football so freaking fast. I think that was the thing that just stood out to me, was just the speed at which they played, which I think is a credit to the way that Mike coaches, making complicated things simple so guys can just read, trigger, and react. And that was awesome, man. I really loved it.
I think a part of it is making things simple. I think another part is just that emphasis. I think it's also sustainable. It's not just one of these things where all these guys were excited to get out on the field and they're flying around. No, I think that, one, the communication's probably going to improve even more. And I don't see that accountability piece going away. And I mean, obviously we don't know because we're not there, but you can sense that Macdonald is one of those no nonsense guys.
Oh, absolutely. Just listening to the pressers, either post game or the day after on Monday, and them asking about things like the run defense, which was excellent against 2 really good backs in Williams and McLaughlin, and an offensive line that's built to run the football with the Denver Broncos. They really did shut them down and make them one-dimensional with a rookie quarterback, and that's a recipe for success. But even when they were asking him about that, Mike was like, well, there's some run fits on the outside run stuff that, we got some work to do. They asked him about Byron Murphy. He had some good run fits, I guess, but there's some things. He wasn't even close to satisfied with a result like that, which Maybe it's just because we're all suffering from Hawks PTSD watching this defense the last couple of years that we see that. We're like, sweet. Yeah, that's perfect. Just keep doing that and we're golden. And Mike's like, no, like that was a great start and all, but we got work to do.
And it's, as we talked about pressures on the offensive line, I look at missed tackles and the fact that it's up around 11. And I kind of have the opposite reaction of, oh, did we really miss 11 tackles? But at the same time, it was because of them rallying to the ball so quickly that, yes, a guy missed a tackle here and there, but there was usually somebody else there to help clean it up to where it didn't hurt the defense.
Absolutely. You hit it dead on the head right there. The idea that the first guy that gets there can just slow the dude down, not necessarily make the tackle. They often did, but if they do happen to miss, that your buddies are there to clean up the mess and keeping it from turning it into a larger gain. And I think part of that is because they were able to fire and react and get downhill so much more quickly to the short passing game than they had in the last couple of years under Pete, that they were actually able to get the guys slowed up rather than just being out in space and get juked out their shoes. And then it's still a minute before the other couple guys get there and it turns into a big gain. Complete opposite with the way that it looked on Sunday. And I think that's super encouraging and exciting. Like, that's a game in the last 2 years that we would normally lose with the previous defense.
I think one of the big tests, though, is going to be offenses like the Niners and the Rams. And you got to play those teams a couple times.
Rams, Niners, Lions, Eagles, all those offenses look pretty good in the NFC. Even the Saints looked pretty good. But then again, I mean, they were playing the Panthers, so, who knows?
The NFL's JV team. Yeah, I feel bad for Dave Canales.
He took that job, man. He didn't have to take that job. Like,
no,
I understand that the head coach gig only comes around once in a blue moon, and you got to decide on some of those things. But I mean, just looking at the way the Bucs came out the gate, like if he had stayed down in Tampa for another year, you're telling me that his name wasn't still a hot coaching name? Like, I probably would have stuck there and just not touched that dumpster fire in Carolina with a 10-foot pole. But you're right. There are some big-time offenses in the NFC that we're going to get to test our mettle against, but they get a few games to warm up, including, the game we got coming up in Boston this next weekend. And I'm excited to see where this goes. And I'm excited to see where it goes offensively, too, because of the way Grubb adjusted so quickly. Boy, that really buoyed me in my hope with where this could go.
Yeah, and I want to get back to the offense, too, and talk a little bit about the adjustments. There's one stat, though, that I am interested to see if they are able to replicate in this game coming up, because I look at the ratio of tackles to stops. And the way that stops are judged, it's really measured just in short gains, and it's dependent on downs. But they had 34 stops in this game. Are you squinting because you don't understand the concept of the stop as a stat?
Oh, I understand the concept of the stops. Apparently, the person who made up the stat doesn't understand the concept of a stop. You know what a stop is? A stop is when you stop somebody on third down and they don't get a first down. That's a stop. Anything else is a tackle.
They also count stops on first and second down if you get like 1 or 2 yard gains. I think that counts also as
Negative.
a stop.
That is a fake stat that does not count. There's tackles for loss, there's tackles, and then there's getting off the field on third down. That is a stop. You can't just change. It's like changing the word avocado to mean potato. Like, you can't just change what a stop means.
I think what you're referring to are third down stops.
No, those are just stops.
Stops can only be on third down in Adam's definition book.
Or fourth.
Okay.
It's not my definition. I didn't make this up. I didn't make the rules. Like, this is how it's always been.
I guess I didn't know. I don't have the rule book that says it's only on third and fourth down. I thought it was all the downs.
Have you ever before this year heard anybody refer to a stop as anything other than a third down or a fourth down stop?
Yes, because I track these stats like every year.
How many years have you tracked this fake stop stat?
I look at the premium stats and I see how the stop numbers are. And normally I don't see numbers in the 30s on a game where, you have 48 tackles and 34 of them registered as stops. That's very out of balance. Usually it's like, I don't know, half of that.
I don't think there were 34 drives that the Broncos had in that game. There can't be 34 stops.
It wasn't 34 drive because it's stops on first, second, third, and fourth down.
Yeah, see, it still doesn't work. Like, that doesn't work. That's not how it is. But it's impressive that they held guys to either no gain or no yak. Like, that's cool.
Okay, well, that's the point of the whole conversation that I'm getting at, is a lot of these tackles are them rallying to the ball, not allowing them to get extra yards. They're short gains. And I guess if you just want to go off of something more traditional, like yak, it was 69 yards total on the day.
And that part was awesome, man. Nothing like seeing guys make the catch, but you don't give up any of the cheapies in being sound in the way that they're attacking, which shoulder as they come up on the player, and really wrapping up and not giving it the Quandre Diggs torpedo type tackle that we got so used to there. I thought that part was super awesome. But look, man, I guess guys should just start holding up their fist in the air every time, like they got to stop every time they make a tackle without giving up yak, and then make the stat make sense.
Just because that's a third down stop, because they're holding their fist up because they're signaling fourth down.
Right, because they made a stop.
Boy, Mafe, he had a lot of stops. He also had a lot of pressures, 9 pressures on the day. He had 1 sack, which wasn't really a sack because it was just Bo Nix running out of bounds. Leonard Williams had 6 pressures on the day, hit the quarterback 5 times, which is pretty impressive. And yeah, if we can get more out of those guys, I would have liked to see more out of some of the other interior guys too. But hey, if Mafe and Leo can hold it down for game 1 with, Derek Hall helping out there a little bit too. And Draymond, I think he registered a couple of hurries and a hit, but we knew going into this game that Bo's, the plan for Sean Payton was for Bo to get rid of the ball quickly. We saw that executed relatively well. Although, Bo didn't execute perfectly well throughout the game, throwing 2 interceptions, but that's part of our defense too.
Part of the defense. It's part of the disguise, part of being a rookie, and part of the fact that the interior players, whether that's Murphy or Reed, they were so often soaking up 2 dudes to allow somebody like Leo to get 6 pressures, which I guess we'll just call those sacks now. Kind of like you just call a regular tackle a stop. But I thought on rewatch, watching Leonard Williams was just amazing. I mean, he looked like, a lot of times guys get paid and you're kind of like, okay, like they're still good, but they didn't look as good as like the contractor. He looked better than the contractor.
Yeah.
And that was super, super exciting.
Tyler Lockett looking better, even better after getting a contract extension this offseason, getting that game sealing catch. And it was cool to see the post game speech by Mike Macdonald where he gives away, what did he call the game? It wasn't a game ball, but it was
closer ball or something.
A closer ball. That's what it was.
Yeah. Okay.
See, we're just making up things for game balls too. We have closer balls now.
That's fine. That's fine. They don't claim the closer balls are a stat, so I'm good with it. But I think Tyler obviously earned that. I mean, also give Geno a ton of credit. We keep talking about Tyler and that catch, which absolutely for sure, like that was awesome. And it was cool to see the offense close out a game rather than kick the ball away and have to hold on for dear life. But how about the throw by Geno? Like that was literally the only place that ball could be. It was awesome coverage. Yeah. And Geno had a number of those throws, especially in the second half, where you're like, man, you just give him a heartbeat and all of a sudden, like he's throwing dots everywhere.
And it was cool to hear Coach Mike break down all the components of that, not just calling out Tyler, but talking about how DK affected the corner in that situation, talking about the offensive line being able to hold up. There was a lot of components that went into that, and it was an outstanding catch by Tyler to be able to haul that in one-handed.
It was amazing. And Tyler really kind of got us kick-started in the first half and helped set up that drive that Geno had the amazing scramble on, which I'd love to come back to as well. But a really great back shoulder ball from Geno, and again, good coverage, and it was just better offense. And Tyler really that guy, right? That as much as we are excited about DK and JSN, at the end of the day, to get things going, it was Tyler. At the end of the day, to close things out, it was Tyler. And let us not forget that he is still a great player and not some old dog that we trot out there and hope for 3 good plays a season. Like, he's still that dude.
Well, I think part of the concern was just not seeing him in the preseason and wondering how much that injury was going to impact him, because he was one of the few guys on the injury report. Like I said, we hadn't seen him in the preseason. So it was kind of that question of, do we even get that much of him? Like, how much is he going to be hampered due to injury? And it turns out not so much.
He's a gamer, and he's always ready to go when the lights come on and make the plays in the biggest moments. Let's talk about Geno's wheels, though.
Yeah.
Like, that was an amazing, longest touchdown run of his career. And the juke he put on the safety, like, that was, I'm going to give it a 60% of a Kenneth Walker juke, which is pretty damn good.
I don't know if you were like me in watching that play, but I kept wondering, like, where the Broncos player was going to come from out of the screen to either take Geno down, or when he was ultimately going to slide because someone was coming in from a different angle. And as he's running, I'm going, he's still going. Oh, he's still going. He's going all the way. And you mentioned the juke, and that sealed it right there.
It did. I didn't think he was going to score on that.
No.
I thought about when he was coming up to the safety, again, like you were saying, some dude's going to come flying out of the corner of the screen and smoke him, or he was just going to slide. But one of the things I noticed around the league as well this weekend is how many quarterbacks were not getting down and sliding. Dudes were going head first all over the place. They weren't getting down and sliding. I don't know if, like, they've decided it's time to be, take off the skirt and be a little more aggressive, or if they just kind of forgot that they need to protect the team for an entire year. They were just a little geeked up, but it turned out great for Geno on that run, man.
Well, there is a balance, because there are quarterbacks who recognize that a lot of defensive players are going to come in a lot more delicately because they don't want to get flagged. And so I think there's some quarterbacks who want to try and take advantage of that. It's probably going to come back to bite some of them, but Geno didn't have to worry. I feel like he's pretty smart about it. Bo, I think he did a pretty good job. He had one play where it looked like Jerome Baker was lead blocking for him down the field because he was covering the receiver rather than looking back at Bo. But yeah, I felt that in our game, the quarterbacks were pretty good about getting down when they needed to.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, Bo was head first on a number of them, and you're like, okay. I mean,
one was a slip that they challenged. That was the one that they challenged because it looked like he was maybe sliding, and why they probably called him short of the line to gain, and then maybe going back on the replay. And after Sean Payton said, oh, well, that's not a slide, that's a slip. And they give him the first down.
Well, good for them. It was a good challenge, and they won and then lost the game, as they should, because they're dirty Broncos. So that felt great.
And we got him back with the Sky Judge assist on the Bo Nix hit.
Right. Yeah, I'd love to hear the second half of the show, a little bit of your thoughts on Sky Judge. I think that was an interesting addition to the year here. We didn't really touch much on special teams here, other than even year. 50-yard bombs for Meyer, like, that was cool. And then D. Williams, muffs the punt, which sets up the Broncos with great field position, and the defense really did bow up. And that was one of the awesome things about the defense, is them getting put in a bad position with a very short field and still being able to limit the damage. But on the previous punt, watching D, he darn near fumbled that one too, and that's got me a little nervous going into next week.
That's kind of the reason why he made the team. And so for him to, you hope that maybe it's just game one jitters. So willing to maybe give him a couple weeks, but that's one of those things that, if you cost the team a game, and he nearly did in the situation. I mean, thank goodness the defense, like you said, bowed up after his fumble. Thank goodness they bowed up after the interception by Geno. Because, if you're giving up 7 points in either of those situations, then it would have been Geno trying to make a comeback in the fourth quarter rather than just trying to seal the game.
For sure. And I think one of the other things that should give you a little bit of hope, or not a little bit of hope, but a little bit of joy and excitement going forward as a 12, is this was a game where most of the breaks went the Broncos' way. Two safeties. They had a fumble on a reception that bounced backwards and then right back into Troutman's hands.
Yep.
Just a lot of different things that really broke their way. And yet still the Seahawks were able to get up a couple scores and more or less kind of coast through to the finish.
We've got one email that came in from John the Bard at Davison. He says, well, off we jolly well go again, but I'm not sure what to make of it. Like Adam, I wanted Pete to have another year, and it was strange to not see him on the touchline, but let's move on. I don't know much about the new coach, but he certainly has my support. So let's see. I sat down to watch it being 21:05 here on Sunday evening, thinking we can win this by 10 points. Then the game started. Our first play was a sack, and our second was an interception. For F's sake. If I remember correctly, I was happy with the defense, but not with the first half of our offense. We started to play in the second half, and Cross was the pick for me. So, overall, what do we think? Well, let's not jump down their throats yet. But only one thing left to say. A win is a win is a win. So enjoy your Boston weekend, and my best wishes to everyone there. 2-0 and go Hawks. From John the Bard.
Heck yeah, man. Good to hear from John, and go Hawks, buddy. Was he running a military op when he started watching the game? 21:05?
21:05. I guess maybe that's how John measures time.
Yeah. I hope he was wearing his fatigues and he had his OPSEC all figured out and all that stuff. Yeah.
Staying frosty, hopefully, while he's watching the game.
Absolutely got to be staying frosty for sure, whatever that means. And I just think that he's right. There's a lot about this game that you're like, okay, so I think I know about the defense a little bit now. What do I really know about the offense? They can make good adjustments on the fly. I know that. I know that when they actually commit to getting Ken Walker the ball, he's electric. I know that Geno, given a smidgen of time, he's good. But I think there's still going to be a fair amount of growing pains for this offense over the next 3-4 weeks.
Right. Can they figure out how to throw a screen pass? Can they figure out when to use bubbles effectively?
Well, you should know the answer to that, and that's never. You just don't do them because they're a waste of life. But I think that it's still going to be kind of a roller coaster offensively for the first few weeks here, and that's fine. It's part of the growing pains, and it's going to be, part of Ryan Grubb's welcome to the league rookie moments here, and we'll get through it. And it'll be fine. But I think with the way the schedule lines up, it doesn't mean that you're going to be 3-4 games out of first right out the gate. You're still going to be right in it. There's still winnable games there, but I'm not looking for it to be smooth sailing for the next couple weeks anyways.
No, in fact, after watching this game, I expect that one of these games in the next 3, there's going to be a decision or two that we point directly at Grubb and say, it was a move like that ultimately cost one of these games coming up just down the road here. I think that's just, it's going to happen.
I don't know how it couldn't. It's a guy in a new league figuring it out. And so that's the way it is, man. It's going to take a little bit of time, and it's going to be frustrating in the moment, but we'll just have to all kind of keep our long-term view glasses on and give the guy some time. Let's see it after a full year, after a full 2 years, and then we can really kind of get into the nitty-gritty of it. But yeah, I think just the idea that he was able to come out in the second half and change things up in the manner that he did, that really does excite me a lot. Because how many times did we sit as Seahawks fans over the last couple of years and be like, okay, second half, we're definitely going to do X, Y, Z, to get this thing going. Because clearly the defense is sitting on these other 3 things we're trying to do. This will help get us going. And nope,
they don't do it. They changed it up. So yeah, it was good to see. And yeah, if they can do more of that moving forward, then I think I'll be a lot more optimistic about the offense going forward. I mean, I'm optimistic anyway, just because they have going into the season. I felt more optimistic about the offense just based on personnel. And I mean, we can see offensive line can impact that quite a bit. But yeah, if they find a balance that really works well for them and Kenneth Walker stays healthy, I know there's some concern about him not being out there, him having an abdominal injury. We don't really even know what the situation is with George Fant, how much time, if any, he could miss. I think there's the expectation that he could. Mike Macdonald, not a coach to really want to get into injuries on Mondays after the game.
Nope. We will not get things like legit or anything like that out of Mike. It's, I don't know. He's got a knee or something, and either he's going to play or he won't. Like, that's basically Mike's answer to everything. And it's a little Belichickian, and it's going to be hard for all of us out there making wagers on the Seahawks like we do on PNW Prop Stars. But out of everything out of that first game that was fun, and, even some of the few of the concerns, I think the biggest one for me easily is George Fant and what that means going forward, because we can't get Lucas back till week 5 at the earliest, right?
At the earliest, right. So Is there a right tackle that you look at out there somewhere? Do you just roll with Stone and bring in Jarrell and make sure that he's, or maybe even McClendon Curtis, so that way you have some depth going into the game? Or do you look at some of those guys who might be out there, the veterans like Dwayne Brown still hanging out there, that might be able to come in and give you a couple games?
I think Jake Curhan got cut by the Bears. Like, he did okay in spot duty last year, so maybe you go that way. I don't know.
I don't know if Curran's that much better than Stone.
I don't think so either. There are times last year when Stone played where he really held his own and looked good. There was times that he got beat. This game wasn't one of his better showings, but I do have faith that he can be competent for stretches. But if you're down to your third stringer at the second most important position on the offensive line by week 2, I mean, you might be the LA Rams or, the Seahawks at this point. And that's scary. That does freak me out a little bit. I do think that at right guard, whether it's Bradford or Haynes, I think between the two of them, that is going to get sorted and going to be better over time. I have a lot of faith in Connor Williams just with his pedigree at center. It's hard to imagine that he doesn't help pull this thing together and play at a high level. I think Tomlinson is kind of what he is, and I think you can expect 2 to 3 plays out of him a game where you're like, golly, he just got whooped on that. And I don't see that as having an area to be able to get better. There's no room for growth there.
No, I think it's just that if Haynes could be someone that could ultimately take over at that spot, then that provides that potential. But I also think that you want some of those veteran guys on the line too. And so maybe with Williams, maybe with Tomlinson, like I said, you roll with some of those guys, but they're going to have another test coming up against the New England Patriots. With as much talk as there was over the offseason about how bad the Patriots could be, I watched their game against the Bengals, and they were good in the trenches on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and I was told that they were going to be terrible, especially defensively along the defensive line. And against a Bengals team who's put some, resources into the offensive line to try to keep Burrow upright and all that. I think that game has to be one of those Bills over Patriots, the Lawyer Malloy game, or, something like that, like a weird outlier where a relatively bad team beats a relatively good team out the gate. And you look back in 7 weeks and you go, yeah, I remember when that happened. That's weird.
The thing about that game too, I don't know if that was there. There were a couple questions that I had about the Bengals. One is, why was the game plan to just drop back? And they essentially went with the Sean Payton game plan against the New England Patriots defense. And they have some solid defensive players on the Patriots defense. Christian Gonzalez, I think, is legit at corner. Watching him cover up Jamar Chase, I mean, he was impressive. Keon White was impressive on the defensive line. So they have dudes. Josh Uche had, quite a few plays on the defensive line too, but it was more of the question around the game plan because it was Burrow dropping back, hitting his back foot, getting rid of the football. And the Patriots defense was at least able to fly around to the football. They were making solid tackles and they weren't getting a lot of gains. So I don't know if the plan was to just do that and try and get a lot of yards after the catch. But I didn't even count a throw downfield, like for an explosive play, an attempt even, until probably the third quarter. I mean, you can't have explosive plays if you don't even attempt explosive plays.
It's true. And there's a certain section of NFL fans that believe that this wrist injury for Burrow is one that is really going to be difficult for him to come back to, and that maybe he just doesn't have it throwing it downfield. I mean, shoot, he wouldn't even throw for 3 days in a row in camp all year. So you got to imagine that the offense was a little disjointed, especially with Jamar Chase sitting out for the entire offseason up until week 1 there. And there's going to be some growing pains. Also, too, they lost Mixon in the offseason, and I can't remember for the life of me the back they brought in to replace him, but kind of one of those replacement level backs that you're like, okay, he's fine. I want to say he came from the Colts, but yeah, they were a mess on both sides of the ball. Brissett accounted himself fairly well. It is first showing as the re-showing of himself as the Patriots starter. And it was enough of a performance that instead of being like, oh man, we get to go to Boston and check out the win there in the stands. Now I'm a little nervous about the whole thing because they went out and handled business against the Bengals.
It makes me a little bit nervous, but like you said, it was Zach Moss running into that Patriots defensive line. And I felt like they had a little bit more success as the game went on and they started using Chase Brown a little bit more. And was he the rookie this year? No, they picked him up last year, I think. But I think Chase Brown, he might be the better of their two backs. And I felt like once they started moving the ball on the ground, that they did actually move the ball a little bit better. A lot of times too, it was the Bengals making dumb mistakes down inside the red zone. He had a throw to Gesicki that Gesicki dropped. And then 2 plays later, he dumps it off to the tight end and he runs in the end zone and he's holding the football out way ahead of him. And the Patriots defensive back comes and slaps it away and they recover and the Bengals get no points. They would have had the opportunity, I think, to tie it up on that play. And yet, here the Patriots they go down the field, kick a field goal, and then they're up 10-0.
Yeah. And you speak about, self-inflicted wounds. And part of the slow start for the Seahawks offense was penalties. They were killing themselves with penalties right out the gate. I think 2 out of their first 3 drives got short-circuited by penalties there. So they got to clean that up. I'm curious to see if Grubb goes to more of an under center attack and really try to lean on the run game early and open things up, because I do think that that's where they could have the most success against this defense. If you demoralize them with the run game first, which is really their strength as a defense, is being able to stop the run. And I mean, in theory, right, this is new coach, new defense, right, new stuff. I mean, we're speculating as much as we are with the Mike Macdonald led team here. So I think that that's the way that he'd want to go. Try to keep Geno upright and give the defense a little pause every time he runs a little play action, keep the pass rush off of him so that he can go through his reads. And maybe, just maybe, he could get to a 3rd read or a 4th read and involve somebody like Jake Bobo a little bit more too.
Yeah, I think there were some people who were upset at the amount that we saw Jake Bobo out there, but I wouldn't mind seeing a lot of Bobo out there blocking in the run game either. Maybe some Brady Russell, get those guys involved, and even Charbonnet, get them involved, just so to help wear down the defense a little bit early, so we can start to see. Because I felt like it was that kind of change up late in the game to where we were seeing Charbonnet, kind of hammer it a little bit more, and then you bring in K9 and he would have the speed, and you had that. I like that tandem.
I would say this about Charbonnet. He's definitely more of a north-south runner in terms of his style. I don't see him as the hammer that so many people do. I don't like.
He's more.
He's
of a
not
hammer.
Chris Carson. He's not Marshawn Lynch. I don't know that he's more of a hammer. I think Ken Walker is every bit as much of the hammer. He's just got more sauce to his run game that he can pull out of his bag and make guys miss. Like, I don't think Sharps is that sort of guy that people think he is.
Well, part of it is because that's what we want. And so we describe what we want, and maybe he can live up to that.
Okay. I haven't seen it yet. I mean, he had that one nice run along the sidelines. I think it was against the Niners where he smushed a dude on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Last year. I mean, there was that one. That was cool.
Well, the Patriots, they have not won their home opener since 2020, way back when Cam Newton was their starting quarterback going up against Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Dolphins. Why do those names feel so old? It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, that's because we're old. But yeah, shout out to that time that Cam Newton was really good for like 4 games for the Patriots. Like, he was awesome for a second there.
But I'm saying that was 4 years ago. But Cam Newton and Ryan Fitzpatrick, it may as well be Warren Moon and Joe Montana.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like a bygone era. Maybe you don't feel this way, but for me, as I'm watching in my first full slate of NFL football games and all the different teams, like, I find myself going, and who the hell is that guy? More so now more than ever. It feels like there was kind of like a whole class of NFL veterans that all kind of dropped off and retired all in the same about 2-3 years. And there's like this huge amount of turnover in the entire league.
I think what this phenomena is the Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick effect. Like, now that those two coaches are out of the league, it feels like the end of a football era, and now everything is new.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think when you start, you got Roethlisberger and Manning and Rivers and, all those guys gone, Cam. Yeah, it does. It feels like a completely different league now with youth movement here, a big youth movement. And it's kind of fun to watch because you get to watch some rising stars now that you maybe don't know a ton about. You're like, ooh, I saw him once on a play in week 5 last year and he looked cool. And now he looks cooler. And it's going to be fun. And that's kind of how I feel about these Patriots is like, what do I know about a lot of these Patriots, short of Ramondre Stevenson, like, or Christian Gonzalez? Not a whole hell of a lot, to be honest. And, Ramondre looked good in the first game there, and it's going to be a big test for this defense to shut down that run game.
And that would probably be where my biggest concern is. The thing that I'm less concerned about is that Jacoby Brissett and that receiving crew for the Patriots going up against the Bengals secondary, like, it's going to be a whole lot tougher for those receivers against the Seahawks secondary with Devin Witherspoon, with Tariq Woolen, with Julian Love, and Kayvon Wallace and Rayshon Jenkins. Like, that is a good secondary. I don't think that the Bengals have quite that effective of a secondary. And so when you talk about guys that you don't know, I mean, go down the list of Patriots receivers. It's KJ Osborne, who maybe you remember from the Vikings as like wide receiver number 4.
Bagley? Yeah.
Jalen Polk, who, he was their second round pick from this year. And Huskies fans will remember him. Demario Douglas in the slot, 6th round pick from last year. Tyquan Thornton. I recognize Tyquan Thornton's name.
Yeah. Oh, his name is fantastic. Like, it's very unique.
And then you got Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper as your tight ends, I suppose.
God, they were good at one point, but we haven't heard jack from them. Maybe it's just because they haven't had any quarterback play for the last couple of years. But yeah, they're going to have a different sort of test against the Seahawks secondary, but also a very different type of test from the Seahawks front 7. I mean, with the Bengals losing DJ Reader this last offseason, I think that was a way bigger loss than a lot of people are, kind of taking into account. When you look at the Seahawks top to bottom on the defensive line, I thought of all of the different units throughout the game this last week, that was the one that fired me up the most. I mean, they look cohesive. They look fast. They looked strong. They were resetting the line of scrimmage more often than not.
Yeah.
And like I said, Leo looked like a monster out there. So it could be a very different type of game for somebody like Jacoby Brissett, who's not exactly known for being fleet of foot.
I didn't know what to expect necessarily from this Patriots offensive line, so I was a little bit surprised when they were pushing around that Bengals defensive line so well, and which is what helped, I think, lead Ramondre Stevenson to have such a good day against the Bengals.
That really is when you watch that Patriots-Bengals game. It all was won and lost in the trenches, and the rest of it was what it was.
But if you think about it, as excited as Patriots fans are about getting a win over the Bengals, like totally unexpected, you guys scored 16 points. Like, let's chill a little bit.
Yes, and that's part of what makes me feel like that was one of those wacky week ones. Can you believe that happened, 10 weeks from now? Like, that's how that one feels. I
feel if the Patriots go out there and score 16 points, maybe Stevenson runs for 100 yards and is able, they're able to put together a couple good drives. But if we hold them to 16 points, Geno Smith in this offense is going to be able to get more than that. Yeah, maybe DK gets shut down another game by Christian Gonzalez, and we deal with that. But we have enough supporting cast around that we can deal with that.
Absolutely. And just watching the way that Grubb, as he got the running game going in the second half, then was able to hit some of those quick hitter rhythm passes that were a little bit more of easy completions. Like, it's things that we never saw out of the Waldron offense where you're like, oh, there's 4, there's 6. No, they're back to 3, like just a couple yards at a time to kind of keep the sticks moving along with the running game. I think that the Seahawks could do that all day to the Patriots and put up 21 points. In my mind, I don't see this defense giving up more than 17 points. That it feels insane to think that they would.
Yeah, against Jacoby Brissett and this wide receiving core, it does seem like that would be a disappointment if they give up more than 17. I'm going to be disappointed, Adam, if they don't find a way with Michael Jordan being their backup guard and in the game. He did play week 1 for the Patriots. If he's playing guard and we can't get Kobe Bryant on the field to have a Kobe Bryant versus Michael Jordan moment in the NFL, I'm going to be a little bit upset.
Well, they have the wrong Michael Jordan playing guard. That's for sure.
We've got the wrong Kobe Bryant playing safety. So there we go. It's just
he needs to play guard too, just so that it works. Like
I just want to settle the debate, Jordan versus Kobe, for good.
I don't think that you need to do that. I think that it's been settled, I don't know, ever since Kobe stepped on the court and when he left the court. Like it's a no-brainer. Jordan is greater than Kobe. Freaking duh. Like there's no argument to be made otherwise. There just isn't.
Well, I want our Kobe to beat their Jordan, and then it spices up the debate a little bit more.
I don't want to see Kobe on the field, just like I never wanted to see Kobe on the court. So, I'm good with that. But that's a funny. I had not noticed that, and that's a good catch by you. That's pretty funny stuff.
Hopefully, I get my moment. But if John Schneider has anything to say about it, he's going to tell Mike Macdonald, find a way to get Kobe Bryant into the game, run a safety blitz. You do it at the guard, and we get that moment. Although I don't know if Kobe taking on a big 300-pound guard is the best way to go. But just so we have that as something to talk about afterward. That's all I want. That's all I'm asking.
I get it. Then the only thing I'd add to that is that when they're doing the intros at the beginning of the game, like put in Mike as a starter. And then you got to go get the dude from the Bulls to do the intro. Start out in that guard from North Carolina. We need it.
We need that. All right. Why don't we get to the second half of the show? Adam, our Seattle Seahawks are tied atop the division with the stupid San Francisco 49ers. They get the win over the Jets on Monday Night Football. We got to enjoy a full Sunday after the games were over of being the sole team atop the NFC West. We get to share it a little bit with the Niners now.
Yeah, it was super enjoyable up until about the second quarter of the Monday Night Football game when the Niners just started to pour it on. Catfish! They looked good against the Jets. I didn't like that at all. The Rams looked super gettable.
And without McCaffrey, what the heck?
Yeah, I mean, it's that same Shanahan crap, right? Like, they talked about it ad nauseum in the broadcast, but I mean, for every Mike Anderson or Peyton Hillis in the world, like, yeah, you can get 1,500 yards out of them or turn TD into a Hall of Famer. It's in their blood. It's what they do.
They just find random running backs to just be good in the system.
Yep. And then when they get a real legit good one like CMC, then he looks like the second coming of Gale Sayers combined with Earl Campbell or something.
Yeah, and never gets hurt until, I guess, this year.
Yeah. Look, man.
Achilles tendonitis is what he has.
Oh, that sounds like it's totally going to be fine.
Yeah, anytime you get an itis dealing with one of your ligaments, it usually doesn't go away quickly.
Every time that you've seen a big-time athlete tear an Achilles, what do you hear after? Like, say, Kevin Durant in Golden State during the finals.
Yeah.
Like, he's pushing through it. He's like, ooh, I could feel it. Blah, 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 blah. Then it tears. Mm-hmm. Or Richard Sherman, like, oh, I've been babying it. I've got a little tendonitis. And then it tears. That's not a good sign at all.
It feels like it's one of those injuries that, you know, once guys start feeling good and feeling like they can come back, like I feel like guys always come back too early and end up injuring it again. So as the 49ers, you want to give that a lot of time, like maybe until after we play the Niners twice, then maybe CMC should think about coming back in.
There you go. Or just not. You could sit out the year. That'd be fine. Yeah. Take some time off. You've earned it, CMC. Spend some time with your family. You've missed them.
Which is one of the things Mike Macdonald did after the game. I thought that was interesting, that instead of like going and breaking tape right after the game, he talked about how he had family in town and went and enjoyed family. So good for him.
That's great for him, man. I am a big advocate of being anti-hustle culture, and for him to take some time to hang out with his family and be like, you know what, the grind will be there when I get back. Like, but I'm going to take some time and have, like, I don't know, a smidgen of balance. That's great. That's a great example to set for the rest of the world. I'm a big fan.
Not a fan of the Rams, though. I was a fan of them losing in overtime to the Detroit Lions. Man, as we talk about injuries for the Niners, and mostly that just being CMC, how about the entire Rams offensive line? I mean, Havenstein didn't even make it into the game because he was hurt. Avila goes down, Noteboom goes out, and Matt Stafford paid for it.
He did. He took some shots, and he's not going to – they're going to be on to Garoppolo before you know it, once he's back out of his suspension here, if he keeps taking hits like that, because he can't do it. In fact, he had to come out of the game, get taped up, had the ankle issue. Now he's a tough SOB, so he managed to keep on keeping on. But I think my favorite moment of that entire game, Brandon, is they showed Sean McVay up on the screen, and, you know, Brittany's walking around the house doing, you know, what she does when I'm watching football games, which I don't know what it is because I'm not paying attention to her. But she walks by the TV and she's like, who's that guy? And I was like, oh, it's Sean McVay, head coach of the Rams. She's like, God, he needs to do something about all that hair gel. Like, the first comment out of her mouth. And he looks a little bit like a douche. And I was like, exactly. Yeah, nailed it. And that was my favorite moment of that entire game.
Yeah, because what you don't want is her going, oh, who's that guy? He's handsome.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be like, wait till you hear him talk.
Puka Nacua also going out to injury reserve. He's going to be out for at least 4 games. So that leaves
Cooper Kupp
to throw to. And, you know, that's going to be tough for them.
Or it won't, because it doesn't ever seem to matter for them, which is honestly incredibly annoying. So we'll see.
There were a couple other favorite things from my watching of that game, though. The first one is when they talked about whether or not Aaron Donald would be coming back. And then they actually had, I think it was Aaron's wife.
That was great.
Who took the video, and there it was, Donald like sleeping on the couch during the game. That was one of my favorite moments.
Just because he wouldn't be coming off the couch, right?
I just don't need to be seeing Aaron Donald come back.
Here's the thing. Conspiracy Adam says that he wasn't actually sleeping. He did not. That looked like a fake sleep to me. And she had on full makeup, like when she made the TikTok or whatever nonsense that is, to make that video. But I do like that she like basically peed on him right there. I was like, no, he's mine. You can't have him back. Like that's that. Which led to Brittany's second comment on the game, which wow, she's beautiful. And she wasn't wrong.
Yeah, she was fully made up. So good observation by you because, yeah, I think most people don't get made up to watch football.
No, you don't get your hair did to watch, whatever game they were ended up watching. And I'm telling you, he wasn't breathing heavy. His mouth wasn't slacked out at all. There was no drool. Like he just looked like he was a peaceful little cherub sleeping on the couch. I'm not buying it. That's fake sleep. It's a fake TikTok. Chinese propaganda.
My other favorite moment, though, was just the way the Lions handled the end of that game against the Rams because they ran it right down their throat to close out the game. I was so concerned just because the fourth quarter with Goff, I felt like he had so many throws where it looked like he was giving it away, letting the Rams back into it. And I thought for sure that Goff was going to find a way to blow it for the Lions in the final moments, but no. They only allowed him to throw one time on that final drive, and they just kept handing the ball off and just jellied the Rams all the way down to the end zone.
Yeah, Goff was getting a little goofy towards the end of the game, and it was nice to see him bring Monty back because he started out the game strong and was running the ball well. Then suddenly he was off the field. I don't know if he insulted Dan Campbell's wife or whatever happened, but they didn't put him back out there for pretty much the entire second half. It was all Jahmyr Gibbs. And he was fine, but it's like, man, Monty's been physical and running it down their throat. Like, what are we doing? And then they bust him out in case of emergency in overtime. And he just stole the soul of young Shula or whoever it is that's their new DC and wrapped the game up for the Lions. That was good to see.
Yeah, that was smart.
And shoved it in the face of the announcers. I think it was Collinsworth being like, oh, well, they should probably get ready to kick a field goal here or blah, 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 blah. I was like, what are you talking about? Score a touchdown. Why would you be screwing around like playing for a field goal when you have the ball first?
Oh, and they were moving the ball well with Montgomery.
Yeah.
So, yeah, why would you stop doing that?
If you're jellying somebody, you jelly it all the way down their throat. That's what you do.
And they did. And the Cardinals lost. So I think that's all we need to say about them.
I was nervous about that for half a take. I was like, oh, is this going to be another one of those stupid week one things? Like, come on, Bills. They couldn't stop a running back reception for the life of them. Kyler's just winging it around to his backs and little short dinks and dunks like he always does. They forgot that they drafted Marvin Harrison the entire game.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
It was interesting. It was nice to see him take the L, no doubt about it.
Well, hopefully the Patriots will be taking the L when we travel out to Boston coming up here this weekend. I'm excited for this. This is going to be a fun trip.
It's going to be an awesome trip, man. I have never been to Boston. I have always had a small fascination with it. And I can't wait to check it all out, hang out with the peeps. I hear the food is just ridiculous, especially Italian food. So looking forward to that. And then I get to see a bunch of you little flockers out there, and that's going to be a ton of fun, man. Can't wait.
Yeah, nothing planned solid other than just being at the game. Oh, we are taking the bus, and so I think I have the information on what lot we're going to be in, but as far as Saturday night plans, I think we're going to have to throw that into the Discord or up at gettintheflock.com, maybe both places once we figure that out. But yes, lot 52A/52B is where we're going to plan to be game day morning. So find a way to hit us up if you're going to be there. Gettintheflock.com, or if you are in our Discord, we have a Discord channel there to get a hold of us. And yeah, we hope to see some folks there.
Absolutely. If we don't, I'm going to be a little disappointed, but that's never happened in the past, so I'd be surprised.
And if you're asking yourself, how do I get into the Discord? Well, you can go to getintheflock.com. $3 and above gets you into that group. And if you want to help support the show, it's something that we appreciate very much. We very much appreciate our executive producers, DCH, Brian Shaw, Ryan Peterson, who is our live executive producer via YouTube. I figured I'd give him credit in our main show, too. And we've also got JC Schilling and Brian Lowry.
Heck yeah, man. All the Bryans, like, that's a distinguished group, man. Like, what I'm really impressed with is you usually get that many executive producers in the kitchen and things start going sideways, but not this group, man. They work together seamlessly.
They do. It's easy, super easy for us, and we just appreciate them a lot. We also appreciate our new members of the flock. We've got Tim Edison coming in at $36 for the year. Welcome to the flock to Tim.
Heck yeah, Tim. Great to get in on a win week 1, and appreciate that a ton, bud.
We've got Root coming in for the year at $12.12 a month, $145.44 for the year. Welcome to the flock to Root.
Heck yeah, man. And the Ring of Honor and all that. That's going to be awesome. Can't wait to see you there. Yeah. I'm rooting for him. I am.
Root has a scary email address too, by the way.
Oh, is it from the dark web?
It feels like a dark web email address for sure. I don't know.
Cool.
I'll leave it at that because I don't want to put the email out there in the universe.
Oh, no. You can't do that to him. That's basically like doxing the guy. But yeah, I think that we now know who we need to go to commit cyber warfare against Sean McVay.
Ooh.
Like,
that's smart.
He's our guy.
I feel like Root knows some things. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to be able to commit cyber warfare like a nation state. Like, that'd be cool.
But just on the Broncos and Niners.
Niners, Rams, Cards.
Did I say Broncos? That's because we just...
You did, but I'm fine with that. Okay. You can include them. Yeah. Yeah. Viruses for everybody.
We got Jared Hoyt in at $3 a month. Jared says, hello, Brandon and Adam. After moving from the greater Hawkdom to Broncos country, I know, gross, but life happens. I figured I'd need to cleanse my Hawkra from moving to such a gross place, but also from being a dirty, dirty freeloader. From seeing the first quarter, it's clear to me this tough offensive start is due to my low Hawkra. So I have joined the flock, and as I type this, Gino is scampering his way to a touchdown, so I'll take that as my contribution complete.
That's perfect, man.
You know who should get a closer ball? It's Jared.
It's Jared. See, look, he started out knowing that he was the problem. He made some great adjustments early in the second quarter, and it got us going. And yeah, I mean, he's the reason we struggled, but he's still the reason we won. So nice work, Jared.
We've also got a $26.20 score donation. Stephen Kirkpatrick coming back in, continuing with the winning score donations for another season. Thanks to Stephen.
Yeah, big thanks, Stephen. I love that tradition and a lot of fun. You're the man, dude. Appreciate that a ton.
Tweezy Smitty in at $5 a month. Welcome to the flock to Tweezy.
Yeah, we got Root and Tweezy. We got like a real ragtag bunch here, man. I feel like we could start a pretty sweet gang with guys like that.
And we've also got Eugene Houston, who gave us a raise from $12.12 a month to $153.60 for the year. Says Brandon and Adam, sorry for the long email, but it has been a while since I last checked in with you. Back in 2020 in November, to be exact. Sending you a message to let you know I gave you guys a bit of a raise. First, I bumped it from $12.12 to $12.80 in honor of my all-time favorite NFL player, Steve Largent. And I also changed to an annual instead of monthly donation. I think I remember Brandon saying that the annual donation Patreon takes the same fee as a monthly donation, but only once. Yeah, if you're $1 a month, the fees end up making it, not very much per month. But if you go $12 for the year, then yeah, that little bit of a fee, they only take it out of the one time that you actually pay it. So the annual is the way to go. Even if you don't give us a raise at all, but just choose to pay annually, it ends up giving us a little bit of a raise.
Yeah, it really does.
Eugene goes on to say, hopefully this way gives you a raise in 2 ways. And yeah, you're not wrong, Eugene. Says, I'm also excited to get 3 prizes for winning 3 weeks of Pick'em last year. I'm not bragging, but actually quite the opposite. Even though I won 3 weeks, I finished below 60th overall, which means the other 15 weeks, my picks were absolute catfish. Adam should probably change his saying from even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while to even show me your Largent's TD's picks, the weekly winners, once in a while. As much as I would like to think I had Nostradamus-like skills those weeks, alas, not so. I have a number of rules that I follow for those weeks, and those just happen to all fall into place. Rule 1, I always pick the Seahawks, and this would be my rule even if it wasn't a Seahawkers rule. Rule 2, my wife is from Niagara Falls, so I always pick the Buffalo Bills unless that interferes with Rule 1. Rule 3, this is a strange rule for me because, like many listeners, I grew up in an AFC West Seahawks era. However, back in 2001, I was offered a job in Vegas, so I packed my car, Drove from Everett to Vegas. 23 years later, I'm still here. So my third rule now is I always pick the Raiders, unless, of course, it interferes with rules 1 or 2. Rule 4, always pick against the 4 Racka. For the 6 games they play each other, I have sub-rules I follow. Rule 4A, catfish! The whiners. My sports hate runs so deep. For them, I give them a double catfish! Catfish! I will not pick them, no matter the strength or weakness of the opponent they're playing. The only way I will pick the whiners will be if their win will help the Seahawks. Rule 4B, in the 2 games of the Cards and Lambs, I pick the Cards. Funny, I don't have any sports hate to the Cards. Yes, they are annoying as hell, but no hate. And Rule 5, my brother-in-law grew up idolizing Walter Payton, and because of this, is a Bears fan. So I will pick the Bears unless this interferes with rules 1, 2, or 3 above. After that, there are usually a handful of games left, so I usually go by who I will be cheering for if I was watching the game, which a lot of times comes down to which victories will most help the Seahawks or Bills. I will bring this long email to a close with this. Brandon, Adam, and all the Seahawks fans out there are better at life than Skip Bayless. Go Hawks. From Eugene, Houston, show me your Largent TDs.
Love it, man. Appreciate it a ton, Eugene. And look, if we were starting a gang with the aforementioned little flockers that have gotten in the flock this week, Eugene would clearly be the brains of the operation. Like, he's got all the financials figured out. He's got a lot of rules. It turned into maybe more of a mafia than a gang. So that'd be kind of fun. But I can see where his rules get him in trouble, though. It's obviously the Raiders and the Bears that are bringing him down. Like, you can't have rules to bet on or pick terrible franchises week in, week out based on other people's allegiances to teams. I think that's where he could, go from winning 3 weeks a year up to maybe like 5. So it'd be, wouldn't be necessarily a blind squirrel. It would be, show me your Largent TDs.
Yeah, but I can't knock on the strategy too much because he was the only person to win 3 weeks of everybody last year. So it worked out in that regard. Okay. Now, I think part of that works out because that is such an unusual way of picking that nobody else, that's going to put you ahead on those weeks where people are just randomly going with, well, not randomly, but where people are just following their traditional, logic in terms of picking. And, that worked out well for Eugene. So 3 prizes going his way. The thing is, too, I think I had a choice of 1 or 2 prizes. I'm going to have to come up with a third thing to throw in because, Eugene has 3 prizes on the way.
No, that's super cool. I didn't realize he was the only one to win 3 weeks. And, he honestly shouldn't listen to me about anything when it comes to picks because mine were just trash last week. So.
You did okay. We'll get into that in a second. But we've got mail, Adam. I need to put out the P.O. Box address maybe a little bit more often. P.O. Box 8642. It's in Kalispell, Montana, 59904. I got a package from JC, who sent me 2 signed Seahawks cards for Pick'em prizes. It's a JSN autograph card and a Zach Charbonnet autograph card that he picked up when he was there with the military group.
That's awesome. Those are good cards, too. That's a lot of fun. Thank you, JC. That's great, man.
JC says, hey, dude, sorry we didn't get a chance to meet up this summer. I love the pod. Thanks for, love the pod that we did. Yeah, because I had JC on that week that he did the military thing. Thanks for letting me be a part of it. Go Hawks. P.S. How about Game 1 throwbacks? Go Hawks from JC.
I love the look of the throwbacks, but the result in the throwbacks has been middling. I'm starting to get a little worried.
Yeah, they need to go back to the traditional neon green because they had a lot of success in those uniforms.
No, I'd rather lose, I think.
We got a package, too, from Jeff K. Seahawk. He's going to be in Boston and says, just a quick note with a snack to start the 2024 season. Thanks for all the hard work from Jeff. And I'll hold this up, Adam. There's one coming for you, too. It is the Niners Tears bottle, and it's filled with M&Ms.
Hey, all right, man. That's super exciting. Gonna have to hide that from Brittany, though.
Well, did you just eat them on the Boston trip, and you just take back the Niners Tears bottle?
That's right. No, that works out well. No, I like your plan here.
All right, well, getting into Pick'em, we got 7 teams who finished atop with 15 picks correct. We got How I Metcalf Your Mother. We got Wirehawks, Alex Dutton. We got Hockadoodle-Doo, Paul Smith Sack Club, 12 for the win, and Captain Long John. And it was How I Metcalf Your Mother with the closest to the score, 47 points, 51 points total. That one tickles Adam in a good way, I think.
They all do, man. Look, it's my favorite part of the pick'em. You guys, your creativity is off the hook, man. It delights me to no end.
I think we have our Pick'em League overlord sneaking in. Well, she can't sneak in because we got to start up the trumpets. Dear underlings, do you not know I am watching? You knew the rules. Test me and I will strike you down with all my might. 2 of you picked against the Seahawks and got what you deserved.
Oops.
As Dad informed me as soon as I got up that you had won and the Donkeys had lost. He was very happy and excited, especially as he pointed out that the Lambs and Cardinals had lost too. He says these things to me. I haven't a clue what he's talking about, but it makes him happy and I humor him. You two know who you are, and so do I. Jared Tim and Liam Carey Evans.
Uh-oh.
Your pick will not be changed, and you must live with bad Hakra for the rest of the week and next week. Do better. I didn't know Jared Tim got in our Pick'em League.
Yeah, no, I didn't either. We had been texting back and forth too. He had mentioned it. So yeah, does Bronco Jared, does he still get like the Barry the Commander situation where he's off the hook for having to pick Seahawks every week since he's not technically a Seahawks fan?
Well, he got what he deserved, so it's fine.
That's true. Yeah. Evie didn't even have to get off her throne to smite him.
Yeah, and it's not like Jared's going to be in our Discord either to where he would have to follow the rules if he ends up picking them multiple times. So just a note to Evie that Jared, we can enforce the rules as we will, but he may not get the message.
Well, he will get the message. I make sure he gets the message. That's for sure. Because, you've never met somebody who has a more inflated. I don't even know how to put it into words. It's like he walks around undefeated at all times. So, like, for him to get smacked down by Evie here, that feels good. Feels right.
Okay, so I think as a punishment, then we just make sure that if he is leading going into Monday Night Football, we change enough of his picks so he can't win any given week. Yeah,
you do whatever you want, man. Like, he chose the wrong team to be a fan of out of the gate, so, I mean, it's on him.
Evie goes on to say, well done to How I Metcalf Your Mother, who is on top this week with 15 correct picks and the closest tiebreaker. Dad had 13 picks correct and was let down by the Bengals, Packers, and the Falcons, but he is happy and says you can't win it in the first week, but you can lose it. And he is still within 2 of the leader. He really takes this far too seriously. Have a great week and go Hawks from Evie.
Hey, man, you got to have that competitive juice and be all in. And, yeah, I respect it. I'll try to bring my competitive fire to this week's little pick'em show. I think we're going to do that on Thursdays, yeah? Is that
that's the
plan
goal
here?
For it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And we'll do it live just so that you guys can see just how bad it looks when we do it live rather than pre-recording it.
One thing that we should do just ahead of Thursday, because if we're doing this during the Thursday game, we should at least make our Thursday picks on this show.
Oh, good call. Hey, I think we can come up with a good system on the fly. We don't need to plan anything out. Like, we just let it come as the problems present themselves. I like our process here.
Yeah. And Buffalo, Miami on Thursday. This has to be an easy pick for you. Maybe the easiest pick all year.
Where's the game?
It's in Miami.
In Buffalo?
So maybe not so easy.
They almost got beat by Dink and Dunker last week. They could get beat by Dink and Dunker, a better Dink and Dunker this week in Tua.
Yeah, well, he threw some bombs
I'm still
too.
picking the Bills. I can't stand them. I just can't do it. I can't pick the Dolphins.
This might see, this is where I get into trouble though too. Like normally I would just go ahead and pick the Buffalo Bills, But now that I think, down at least a game, maybe even 2 games to you after this week, I feel like I have to pick the Dolphins. And yeah, I think you got 12 and I got 10.
That doesn't feel right. Like, 'cause as the early games were clicking off, I was like, God, I suck again. You're like, look at this.
Yeah, but there were 2 games where, well, I went ahead and I stuck with the Jets, even though I shouldn't have, because I was trying to get 1 game back at you. And I thought, well, if CMC's out, then maybe there's a chance that the Jets win and I can tie you.
Oh, that's how dirty. Yeah, you want to know how dirty Brandon Schultz plays? So we know this pick'em league is serious now. He sent me a text just before the Niners game. Hey, sticking with the Niners since CMC's out? Like, he wasn't trying to like find out like if I legitimately wanted to change my pick. He wanted to know if I was going to change my pick just so he could pick against me to try to pick up a pick. It was all covert. That's dirty.
If I really wanted to be dirty, I would have just left it on the Jets pick, which is where you left off on our actual pick'em show, and flip my pick over to the Niners.
All right. Well, I went with the possible reverse jinx and picked the Niners because I was like, then they'll lose for sure, which didn't work. So again, my fault, my bad.
Well, I was hoping the reverse jinx was real, and I was willing to take that chance, but no. I guess I'll have to take it with the Dolphins. I'll take Tua and Reek, and yeah, hopefully he won't get pulled over on the way to the game. Or maybe hopefully he will, and that way he'll ball out again.
Did we ever find out what any of that was about? Like, it sounded like they just cuffed him for like no reason, and then Calais Campbell was like, hey guys, like seriously, like he's good, like you guys relax. And then they cuffed Calais Campbell. If you're cuffing Calais Campbell, you've gone off your skis. Is there a nicer human in the world than Calais Campbell?
No, I don't think there is. I think people were just jerks enough that I think you could point to either side in this scenario and say they should have done things differently. Like, Reek wasn't real cooperative in rolling down his heavily tinted windows, which can tend to make cops a little bit nervous if they can't see you in your car and what you're doing. But they were overly aggressive in pulling him out, too, and cuffing him. So,
in Miami, do they have like a massive police funding shortage? Like, do they just not have the computers in their cars to run plates?
It was a motorcycle cop, so he didn't even have a car.
I don't buy for 2 seconds that he doesn't get on the radio and run the plate before he approaches these vehicles. Like, that's got to be standard operating procedure.
He was probably a Jags fan. He was probably a Jaguars fan.
Yeah, because then at that point, you know it's Tyreek Hill. Yeah. Like, what, he's going to pull out a weapon and come after you? No, he's Tyreek Hill. Like, he may be the biggest illegitimate father in all of humankind. I mean, he's got kids coming out his ears from as many different ladies, but a criminal he is not. So, like, come on.
Well, I don't know about that. Does he have a record? He might have something in his past.
I don't think so. I don't think he does.
Okay.
Or maybe he did. Maybe that's why he fell in the draft in college.
Yeah, didn't he have
like an incident in college?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think he's squeaky clean, but okay. At the same time,
all right, that's fair.
It wasn't great for either side. I think both sides ended up looking a little bad, but Reek scored a touchdown, got the win. So there you go.
But again, you can't be cuffing Calais Campbell either. That was the part that made me go like, wait.
That's where the cops screwed up. See, that's you're going too far at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, because if that dude wanted to be a bad man, Calais Campbell, like there'd be body bags everywhere for the last 30 years.
Maybe that's why you cuff Calais Campbell, because you're like, ooh, this guy, if he decides to get mad, he can Hulk smash all of us.
True fact, I guess. I don't know. I mean, are you really even convinced that the cuffs are going to hold that dude?
No.
That's like a reacher moment at that point, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So
yeah,
there's probably no good answer unless you have like one of those Hulk containment units. So, and I don't think a motorcycle cop is traveling.
He was only on a motorcycle. Yeah, he didn't have one on him.
How to do better and better at life.
All right, man. My do better this week is for either the people that take care of the fields in the NFL and or all of the people, the equipment managers, because I don't know if you noticed this entire weekend, Brandon, all the way from Sao Paulo to every single game on every single turf in all the league. Dudes were slipping left and right all over the place. Like nobody could keep their footing.
Yeah.
What in the hell was going on? Like, what, did they all forget, like, what length of cleat works on the same turf that's been there for the last 5 years? Or did they change all the turf situations in the entire league? I don't know which it is, but it made for some really bad, sloppy football and one great highlight with Anthony Richardson slipping and then uncorking like a 95-yard bomb. That was kind of fun. Yeah, but the rest of them, it was so bad. And in the foreign game in Brazil, I don't even count that as a real football outcome. Like, it was so awful. So I don't know who needs to get their poop in a group here, but either the turf dudes or the equipment dudes need to figure it out because that was terrible. Do better.
I was going to have a similar commentary about that Brazil game, and it kind of comes on the heels of watching our Seahawks in Germany. It's playing on these soccer fields. I think that soccer players want the fields done differently. And so it just ends up tearing up those soccer fields. Like, by the end of that game, the turf had all kinds of divots in it and they were slipping the entire game. Yeah, they had to go to the longer cleats. But how do you not test your footing before the game and go, oh, this grass is kind of soft. Maybe we should go with the long cleats instead of the regular cleats. How does a team not figure that out to start the game? And then the Broncos even slipping on field turf in Seattle. That seemed weird. Like, Javonte Williams slipped at a critical moment, which I was happy about. Bo Nix slipped going to the ground at that other moment. So maybe it worked out for us, but there were countless other games where they were slipping all over the field. Just real weird.
It was super weird. Like, I just don't understand how, especially for the overseas games where they haven't figured out, like, you just wear the long cleats. And secondly, I think this proves that soccer guys literally just jog around and chase the ball around and don't really cut, don't really do anything because they never tear up the field, right? You get an NFL team out there and all of a sudden it's all tore up.
Plus, they need it to be extra soft for when they fall down and grab at their knee. So, it's a totally different game.
That's true. It gives them a little extra protection for all of their soft flopping. That's true.
That's how you know that these two games are different. Like, as many of guys went to the ground in an NFL game in Brazil, you never saw once a guy like grabbing at his knee and then just popping up and being okay.
No, you see a guy like Jordan Love go down and like he's out for 3 to 6 weeks, like for reals.
I don't know if we blame that on the turf, but why not?
Sure. I mean, it looked like it didn't have anything to do with it, but it feels like it's fault. So
what might do better this week is for the New England Patriots. Did you see this after the game? The New England Patriots gave their head coach a Gatorade shower after beating the Bengals in Cincinnati. One game. Sure, it's the head coach's first win, but you know what you do for the head coach's first win? You do like Geno Smith in the locker room and give the dude a game ball. You don't go and dump a Gatorade shower on your coach. You won one game. It's the start of the season. Your offense scored 16 points. You going to Gatorade bath your coach every win this year because of your low expectations? Do better.
Yeah, man. Maybe they were just excited to have a tiny bit of joy back in the building with Bill Belichick gone or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
we could never Gatorade bath Coach Belichick.
Yeah, exactly. I was curious. Did they have a bet for what color Gatorade that they may or may not throw over Gerard Mayo in his first coaching appearance?
If they don't now, they're going to have a bet on it every single week for the Patriots. Will Jared Mayo get a Gatorade bath after the win? And 2, what color will it be?
Yeah, some of these bets, like the degeneracy of our football watching public here in the gambling is getting worse by the season, I think, because the bets are getting crazier and crazier.
Yeah, it's not just like how many stops a team might have and if they'll actually get a stop on second down or not. It's full on degeneracy.
I'd be furious if I took the under on stops and they started counting tackles instead, like on first and second down.
Furious. On to Better at Life.
All right, man. My Better at Life this week is for Coach Mike Macdonald. Gets his first victory. Yeah. Team looked pretty prepared, short of some of the offensive stuff at the beginning, but his side of the ball, like they had their poop in a group all game, kept things going. The energy was there. He didn't seem overwhelmed by the moment. He knows how to take a neck massage from Marshawn. Mm-hmm. He just looked natural out there. And, a huge moment for a young dude who didn't even start out really in football, started out in finance, worked his way up and really bringing the excitement back to, Seattle here. And I'm just jacked for the dude, man. So Coach Mike Macdonald, better at life than Skip Bayless.
Yeah, I had a hard time whether or not I would go with Marshawn as better at life for giving him the rub down that allowed him to get the win. But yeah, for Coach Mike getting his first victory as Seahawks head coach, it was good to see, and I couldn't be happier for him to get the better at life by both of us to kick off the first week of the season.
Absolutely. So the only thing I have a question for is, I know Mike, blacked out, quote unquote, when he was asked about getting a neck rub from Marshawn during the game. Like, he had to have looked at him like when he started rubbing his shoulder and be like, oh, I'm all about that action, boss.
If he were really in the moment, I think that's what you say. But I think if he were a true listener of podcast, I think what he would say to Marshawn is IYD.
IYD.
I'm your daddy.
I'm your daddy?
That's why they started off the podcast with Marshawn and Mike. They were talking about IYD. But I'm saying, Coach Mike made it sound like he was a listener of podcasts. He didn't even tune in to Mike Robb and Marshawn's podcast, obviously, because if he would have said to Marshawn, IYD.
Yeah, obviously. Again, I would have whiffed on it too, apparently. So
that's all right. It's plenty of time to get your podcast listening in with the start of the season. We got this show. We've got our For the Hawkra podcast that has 3 in, 3 out. We've got Seahawkers What If with Phil. We've got the PNW Prop Stars show. So if you ever get tired, if you've made it to the end of this show, and you're like, man, I sure wish I had more Seahawks shows to listen to. You subscribe to For the Hawkra on the Believe Podcast Network, BLEAV. And you tune into those shows there because, Clinton and I had a good time doing 3 in, 3 out this week.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. I did listen to your guest appearance for me on PNW, and A+. Well done. You executed very well.
I just wish your picks would have been better.
You and me both, brother. The only thing I won on was just whether or not the Broncos would punt more. So, hooray for me.
Hooray for you. Hooray for punts. We got them.
Got him. I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.